Hey guys, welcome to Form Check Friday. You know the deal. Hey, welcome back to Form Check Friday. Thank you guys for joining me. As always, thank you for submitting all your videos. Again, we have another great batch, so really appreciate all the posting. As you know, I haven't seen any of these, going through them for the first time, so it's always a fun experience. All right, let's get into your form checks, see if we can get this done in a timely manner here. All right, first up. First form check was on March 3rd. I think I need to close the stance width a bit and get more of a stretch reflex out of the hole. I also have difficulty keeping the knees out. Just shove them out as hard as I can. Yes, shove them out as hard as you can. One of the things you will learn is that you are not shoving them out as hard as you can. And I know that because if I stood behind you and yelled at you, or for most people that I've worked with, when you tell them shove your knees out, shove your knees out, shove your knees out, they don't really listen. And then when you scream it at them and you scare them, all of a sudden their knees go out 3 more inches. So that's one of the reasons that yelling is so, or I've learned that yelling is so effective. I didn't want to believe it in the beginning, but it turns out to be true. Okay. Let's look and see what we got here. All right. So, as you guys know, we usually watch a couple reps, just let it take it all in, and then we'll start making comments and breaking down important things. Very nice belt, by the way. I think that's the SBD belt, and that thing is beautiful, beautiful piece of leather. Okay, not bad. I think you're just out of the gate. I think your knee sleeves are a little too low. So, I mean, this is sort of a random comment, but it looks like they're barely, where's the pause button here? It looks like they're kind of barely coming up over your knee. So, knee sleeves are supposed to be tight. SBD sleeves are great. Those are the ones I use. But they're kind of hard to get on, especially if they're tight and if you're sweaty. So there's a couple of videos online. If you go on YouTube and just type in, how do I put on SBD, or how do I put knee sleeves on correctly? But basically what you want to do is, while they're down at the bottom by your ankle, you fold up the bottom halfway and then you fold the top down over it halfway. So you have this like little band of folded knee sleeve, and then you put your fingers underneath it where there's space down by your ankle, and you grab that whole thing and pull it up over your kneecap, like so that the smaller band is right over the kneecap, and then you unfold it, and that way it'll be up higher. It's way easier to get it up that way, and then it'll provide more support, because it looks like you kind of, I'm guessing you just kind of tried to pull these up from the top, and they don't go up that well. So if that explanation didn't make any sense, just look on YouTube, how to put on knee sleeves, and you'll see this fold over method. Works great. Just you want to make sure you put them on before you get all sweaty, because that just makes it even harder. All right, let's talk about your squat, shall we? So the other thing is, I would get weightlifting shoes. Like if you're obviously serious enough to be squatting 315, so you want a proper pair of weightlifting shoes. They make a big difference, especially with depth. We talked a lot about why I like weightlifting shoes and all the different aspects of it last time, but you need them. It's like the order of things. If you're going to be serious about weightlifting, you need first shoes, second a belt, and then third knee sleeves are usually a good idea. But shoes are number one. So the fact that you have a really sweet belt and good knee sleeves and no weightlifting shoes, you got the order wrong. And trust me when I tell you, you will notice a difference, okay? Especially at this weight. So I'm done. I'm done lecturing you on that. Let's see your squat. Bar position looks good. Stance looks pretty good. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe your left heel might need to come in a little bit, but we'll see how you do on the depth. Okay, so a couple things to watch. Watch your head movement. Okay. And let's see how we do on. Okay, so One of the things that makes a big difference, especially when you're filming lifts, and this is to make sure that the camera is down by your hip, is about the level of your hip. Because if you film from the level of your buddy just standing there holding the camera, almost all the time your reps are gonna look high. And it's just something to do with the camera angle and the lens and the distortion and stuff like that. But if you bring the camera, have your buddy take a knee or get a little tripod and put it lower, we will get a more accurate representation of proper depth. So I think you're probably hitting, I think maybe the first rep looks a little high, but I'm not confident in that because I don't have the right camera angle here. You're close. You're definitely close. And I think, you know, on the first rep, you may have cut it a little short. But let's see the second and the third one. That's probably decent depth. Now you've got a little... Yeah, okay. So these are pretty good squats, and like I'm gonna nitpick you a little bit. The shoes will help a lot just in overall stability and then allowing you to get a little bit deeper. There's two little things we gotta work on. So one is if you watch your head as you do these reps, it's very subtle, but you're lifting your chin. And I always harp on people for head movement because the position that it's in right here is what I want the entire rep. So you're gonna see as you go down and start to drive up, you're gonna throw your head back like that, right? And your chest follows your head. So as soon as you lift your head up, that one, see, you did better on that one. Now let's see the last one. Yeah. The head position will cause you to lift your chest early. And when you lift your chest early, you stop driving your hips and you kill your power. Okay, so that your first rep was kind of wonky, and that's very common because people aren't really warmed up. So the first rep is gonna have more errors, and then you kind of realize it and you go, okay, for the next rep, I need to fix this, this, and this. So your second two reps look better. Your head kind of stayed down. You kept that back angle a little longer. First one didn't really go deep enough, and then you threw your head back and lifted your chest too early. So, I mean, you know how to do this. It's really just a matter, I would like to see a little bit more of a dynamic rebound out of the bottom. I think you mentioned something. I'll go back to your notes in a second. Let me just watch one more time. Yeah, not a lot of hip drive on that one. But let's see if you pop your hips up. A little bit better on that one, not lifting the chest too early, and then let's see if we get a decent bounce. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is good technique. The thing that's gonna make it better is when you get more aggressive with the things that you know you need to do. So we know that you wanna stretch reflex, we know you wanna drive your butt up. Do that, the more aggressively you do that, the more benefit you're gonna get from that. So if you let yourself get more of a, I think you talked about shoving the knees out, right? Yes, the harder you, with your stance, the harder you jack your knees out, the more those muscles are gonna stretch out, the more stretch reflex you're gonna get. So shove them out and keep them out as hard as you can, and then allow yourself allow that bounce to happen, and then capitalize on it. Use the rebound and then aggressively drive your butt up. So looks like you're getting low enough, you're shoving your knees out, shove them out harder. You're getting a little bounce, you want more of a bounce, and you're doing a little hip drive, you want more hip drive. So you know how to do the movement. Now let's get more aggressive and intentional with the important parts, right? And the weights will start moving faster. So let me just double check your notes here and make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I need to close the stand. Yeah, so I think your feet are probably good. You might just want to turn your heels in a little bit more, just a little bit more toe angle, and then that'll allow you to shove the knees out a little harder and get a little bit more stretch reflex. Again, if you go a little bit deeper into the hole, you will stretch more, okay? And you have difficulty with the knees out. Q, your knees don't look that bad in terms of whether or not they're caving in. I'll check one more time just to see if I watch the second rep, because that one's better. We'll watch the knee movement here, see if anything. Yeah, they're not, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I would just be aware that you need to keep them out real hard. So when you shove your knees out and you get to the bottom, they should be the widest that they're ever going to be at the bottom, because that's where we're trying to stretch. Okay. So overall, very good. And I don't know what program you're using, but you know, I don't know what the triples are for, but I think you could probably do that for 5. Anyway, work on those things, knees out, more bounce, just get more aggressive with what you already know how to do. And you're going to have a great squat, and get some weightlifting shoes. Okay. You need them. All right. Thank you for posting, and we'll follow up with you a little bit later. Let's see. I don't remember what the previous form check looked like, but I assume we had a lot more to break apart than this. So so definitely an improvement. Okay, moving on. Follow up form check from a few weeks ago. Working on trying to hit depth and using more hip drive. Always had trouble hitting the last few inches of depth. Find it a bit easier once I have at least 225 on the bar. Before that, it feels like I'm losing balance. Thanks again. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Oh no, I spilled coffee on myself. Okay. We got a lot. Okay. So. Yeah, okay. This is going to be a hard one to. Interesting. All right. That was pretty decent. I think you've got a really exaggerated toe angle here. Follow form check. Let me see. I just want to make sure that I'm hitting all the things you're worried about. Working on trying to hit depth using more hip drive. Always had trouble hitting the last few inches of depth. Okay. So let me see here. What we're doing. Well, I think you have a pretty aggressive, like wide and the toes out a lot. So. Yeah, I mean, again, hard to tell with the camera angle, but I mean, it looks like your toe is like there and there. I mean, they look very out. And that, well, let's see what happens to the actual movement. Can I make this bigger? Nope. Okay. I mean, it looks like your depth is great. Let me check your hip drive. I mean, there's definitely hip drive. I don't think you have a lot of knee slide. Let's see. No hip drive on that one, so chest first. Better on that one. See, this is what we were talking about with the last guy. The first rep, it's kind of always a crapshoot. And then they start to get better when you can feel. That one was great hip drive. Let's see what your head's doing in the mirror. Head down. Yeah. These are pretty good. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, normally if you had a stance like that with the feet pointed out too far, we would see some errors in your lift. The thing that I don't know is what is the alignment of your knee with your toe. So the reason that we want to shove your toes out is because in order to get depth and to get that stretch reflex, we need to shove your knees out. And we don't want to screw up your knees. So we want your knee and your toe to be in perfect alignment, right? So I don't want your toe pointed out this way and your knee pointed that way, or your toe pointed straight ahead and your knee going out, because then we get twisting on the knee, right? And that's what screws up your knees. So if you've ever heard that squats are bad for your knees, yeah, they are if you do them wrong. And do them wrong means anything where you're twisting the knee. But as long as the knee and the toe are perfectly lined up in whatever angle you know, you have your legs shoved out, that you're going to be good. That's how they're supposed to work. Okay. So the one thing that I cannot check here because of the angle is the relationship between that toe and the knee. And I'm guessing, just from kind of looking at this, that the knee is going to be, if here, this is your toe, that your knee is actually going to be a little inside, right? So even though you shoved it out here, your toe's going to be going this way and your knee is going to be going this way because you have this very extreme toe angle. It looks like, again, I could be completely wrong about this and the camera's just playing tricks on me. So take this, what I would need to see would be a shot of your feet from the front, or sometimes even like from directly behind, but the front would be a better way to gauge it. But you can check this out, and you just go to the bottom of your squat and you look at the alignment of your knee relative to your toe. And if you see that your toe is way out here and your knee's kind of inside of it, over time that's going to jack your knees up. So you probably need to maybe maybe just turn the heels out a little bit. You know, if your stance is about shoulder width, just move your heels out so the toe angle isn't so extreme. And then you can, when you shove your knees out to their max, they will line up perfectly with the toe. Aside from that, you know, everything looks pretty good. Obviously, you want, like, that one was a little questionable depth, but you're hitting depth on most of these. Your head is down. You're sticking with your hip drive for long enough. Like, you're not getting out of your hips too soon. Yeah, I would, you know, try and, if I'm going to nitpick you, I would say try and stay leaned over a little bit longer and carry that back angle a little bit high, a few more inches up before you start lifting your chest. But, you know, you're doing pretty good here. Let's go one more run through. So yeah, that first rep, we're going to discount that one because you're kind of, the hip drive was wrong, but now we're starting to lock it in. Do you have the SBD belt too? God, I gotta get one of those. Like everybody has these like $400 belts. Yeah, overall, you know, I again, like we hammer like basic thing that we could all do better is staying leaned over longer into the rep, into the ascent before you start lifting your chest. But you know, you're doing it's not anything I would be too worried about. If you can remember that, hey, listen, on the first rep, I usually lift my chest too early. And on the last rep, I usually lift my chest too early because I'm just done with it and do a better job. But other than that, this looks pretty good. So just check your stance that we don't have this extreme toe angle and that your knee and toe are in alignment, and play around with it until you can get it perfect. Maybe have a buddy look at you from the front and make sure we don't put any twisting underneath so that you can continue to lift weights for the rest of your life without having knee problems, okay? Thanks for submitting. These look really good. Let's see, you know, a deadlift or something, unless you've posted that recently and I just forgot. So thank you again for posting, and good luck. And if there's anything else, you know, leave a comment and I'll see if I can address it, like anything I forgot to address with your lift. We shall move on. If you've got time this week, definitely, we're only less than 20 minutes in here, here's a follow-up on squats. Widen my stance like you recommended. Definitely feeling more tension, or the tension more now. Any other glaring issues I need to watch for? Let's find out. I'm boring Clint. He's sleeping right next to me. Okay. Come on. All right. Got an airplane going over me. Okay. Bar position looks good. Hands look pretty good. All right, let me take a few of these in here. Okay. All right. Pretty good depth on that one. So let's keep an eye on your head. All right. You can really see it on that last one. So I remember your first squat that you posted, and we're getting better every time. So this is good news. So let's get into some more details here. So if you watch your head every single time you start to go down. Oh, we're gonna we're gonna watch it again. Okay, so just keep an eye on your head, and just watch. Don't even worry about the rest of it. Just watch your hoodie every rep when you start. Down and then up, right? So you're looking down, and now you're looking up. So your head is going like this as soon as you start the rep. And as your head goes like this, your elbows come down, and you see that? You see the elbow movement? So they're up, and then they go down, like you kind of round, and then your head is up, and you're lifting your chest. So I've talked about this before, but I will talk about it again. I was just giving one of my online clients a bunch of shit for this because it's a very common problem. And what you want before you start the squat, in other words, you take the bar out of the rack and you get yourself set up for the first rep, is to do all the shit that you're doing right on the way down. You want to do all that beforehand. So if you need to puff your chest up, right? And if you need to like arch your back and get your upper back tight and take your big breath and do that, all of that happens before the bar moves. You don't do it as you're squatting. You want to think of the segment from the top of your head to your hip as just a rigid board. Okay, so my head's here, you know, shoulders, back, this. And the only thing happening when you squat is this entire rigid segment goes like this. So that's what you just lean over at the waist. Okay? So if I'm here, when I start my squat, nothing, if you watch my upper body, my head, my neck, I just lean over. And then when I stand back up, I'm in the exact same position. As I go down, I'm not gonna do this, right? I'm not gonna roll my neck or or let my chest round as I'm going down. I'm not gonna try and flare it up as I'm going down. All that introduces unnecessary movement, and it's gonna make your bar path, you know, totally not a straight line. Because you're moving your elbows, or some guys are pushing the bar up on their neck, and then they kick their head back, and there's all this movement in what should be a rigid segment, okay? So you're gonna take the bar out, and I'll show you what position you should be in. If I can pause it. So you get your stance. Okay, so here, look. Your elbows are down, you know, your head, you're looking at the floor. Your chest is relatively, you know, you're not totally rounded over. It looks like you took a breath, and this is it. This segment right here, that just, none of that should move at all. Your head shouldn't move. Your elbows shouldn't move. Your chest, you shouldn't try and flare your chest up as you're going down and none of that moves. You keep your eyes down here, and this is it right here, the waist. You just hinge over, okay? And that will make this whole movement a lot more efficient because there's not all this slop and unnecessary moving of the arms and, you know, just rolling the bar up your back or rolling it down your back an inch. It's very distracting when you're trying to think about lifting the weight, because now the bar is moving relative to your midfoot, and there's all this weird leverage you have to think about overcoming and not dumping it over your head or not dropping it off your back. So the more unnecessary movement we can eliminate, the better and more efficiently you will lift the weight. So watch this right here. Let me see if okay. So if we say this is the good position, right? And then we start to squat. All right, now where are we, right? I know there's a play button in the way. Okay, but look at this, right? So now the bar rolled up on your neck, your elbows went from here to like here, right? And you had, because you shoved you rounded your upper back and the bar started to roll up your neck, you had to throw your head back to keep it from dumping over your head, right? And yeah, so if you look now, the bar is like, it's higher up on your back. Your head is looking straight ahead. You're trying to keep it from rolling off your neck. And then you get to the top and get back to the position that I wanted you in the entire time. Okay, so how do we take all of these notes that I'm telling you and fix it in the simplest way possible? So mainly what I need you to think about is you're not going to move your head, okay? So imagine you've got a tennis ball under your chin in this position up here at the top. You lift your chin, that ball falls on the ground, game over, okay? So you're going to walk out to this position, right? You're going to take a big breath and puff your chest up, right? So you're tight and stable and your elbows are locked down, right? You're trying to pull them kind of together back here, like you're trying to touch them together. Chest up, elbows tucked in, right? Solid. And feel it. Take a moment to like feel that you are rock solid in the upper body. And then your goal at that point is just don't lose that, right? So take it down. So from that point, when you're tight, you're just going to lean over, keep that head down, keep looking at the floor. Nothing moves. You're a robot, okay? The only thing moving are your knees and your hips, right? You're bending over, you're shoving your knees out. Upper body is completely tight and stable. And so again, one of the ways that you can test this out or learn what it feels like when you do this correctly is to do pause squats. So for, in your case, what do you got, like 230, 245 on there or something? You know, with 95 pounds, go down there with, and pop, feel the top position and then go down to the bottom position and pause and count to 3, right? And then ask yourself, am I deep enough, right? Is my weight balanced over the middle of my foot? Are my knees out as hard as they could be? And then is my upper body as in that tight position that I set at the beginning of the rep, or did I round and lift my head? And if you did, in those 3 seconds, fix it, right? Like, oh man, I totally collapsed my chest. Okay, so before you go back up, arch your back, get your head in the right position, feel it, and then come back up, right? You can do that with an empty, I still do this with an empty bar every time I squat. I go down and I pause for 3 seconds and I remind myself what the bottom position feels like. Okay, so that's, you need to get this upper body thing squared away. Your depth is, your knees are caving in a little bit. I think in your case, you probably need to, you might need to narrow your stance just a little bit. And I think your toe angle looks okay. Oh, I lost it. Here we go. Yeah. What kind of shoes are those? Are those like wrestling shoes or are they weightlifting shoes? I don't know what you're lifting in. If they're proper weightlifting shoes, in my mind, they just look like they're, let me see if I can get a better view. Yeah, they look like wrestling shoes or something. If I'm wrong about that and these are legit weightlifting shoes, that's okay, but I don't think I am. If these aren't proper weightlifting shoes, you need to get those for sure, because it looks like your feet are rolling in on the inside. You might have flat feet, so like collapsed arches. If you have flat feet, you definitely need weightlifting shoes, because that makes it really hard to keep that condition, or that, you know, just you're born that way. But people who have flat feet have a real hard time keeping their knees out. So if you have flat feet, you definitely need to get proper weightlifting shoes. And then you can get, another coach recommended these a long time ago for his clients. It's a insert called Super Feet, and they come in different colors. And apparently you want the green ones. That's what I always tell my guys to get, green Super Feet. Slip them inside your proper weightlifting shoes, and it gives you a lot of arch support. So they help once people get both of those pieces in place, it allows them to keep their knees out a little bit harder. Okay. So stance wise, you pretty much look okay. I think this might be a flat foot issue. And in that case, get the inserts, get real weightlifting shoes, and practice keeping those knees out real hard. You just have to think about it. So a lot to work on here. You're doing great. Don't be in a huge rush to pile weight on this yet. So I know that we're trying to drive weight up every time, but I don't want to keep loading you up until you can get a solid, get the form solid. I'm not saying don't go up, but I'm saying make sure that you nail these key pieces of the movement before you start piling weight on the bar, or it's going to bite you in the ass later. You're going to think that you can squat, 405, and it's going to be a disaster, or you're going to hurt yourself. So take the time to learn what the bottom position feels like, establish the good habits at the top, resetting every rep, staying tight, and then keeping those knees out, and work on every time you squat from now on. I would say your empty bar sets and maybe your first rep or your first set with light weight, your first warm-up set with weight, you should pause those. Practice pausing at the bottom. It's a great way to get the feel for tightness at the bottom, and to correct any errors. When you get down to the bottom, you realize, hey, I'm on my toes, I'm on my heels, my head's looking, what the hell happened? You fix it, and then you come back up, and eventually you'll ingrain that movement pattern, okay? Take those notes, work on it, post another video. We will keep dialing this in until we get you squared away and you're repping 500 pounds. All right, brother. Thank you. Let's move on. Jen, okay. As per your previous advice, I'm trying to keep my knees out, stop the scooping motion. Thanks for your help. Okay. So Jen, let's see. We got the cool American flag gym here. All right. There it is. There it is, folks. Okay. So let's take a look at Jen, see what's going on. See the knees move in a little bit? I mean, yeah. With women, this is one of the hardest things to fix, and in some cases, you never really get it. You never get them to just keep their knees out perfectly every time. So we're just trying to do like the best we can, and these are pretty good. You can see them still caving in a little bit. So okay, you want to watch that head. Make sure that when you start sticking, yeah, your head's kind of kicking up a little bit, and you can see the bar path kind of moving. I think we see it quite a bit on the last rep where you're sort of struggling to find this groove. And I think it goes forward and then back, and then and then you just like muscle it up. Let's see. Back, forward, and then, okay. So you have this sort of drift in the bar path, right? And I think part of it is you've got the knees that are still kind of collapsing in, and this is just going to be a hard thing for you to fix. Like, you just have to be diligent about watching them, looking down. Don't look down. Like, let me see where keep your eyes close to your toes so that you can see those knees. I mean, when I squat, I look almost straight down. Some people look, 10 feet or a couple feet in front. But for me, I need to see what's happening with my knees, just out of my peripheral vision. So I look maybe right in front of my toes, and it helps me build that connection between knee position. Because if I go down and I see them out of the corner of my eye kind of move in, I can jack them back out. So that would be number one. Is just every time you squat, your main focus is on, as I start to drive up, are my knees coming in? And if they are, and I'm talking about your warm-ups, like practice perfect warm-ups, because that's the only way you're going to get it to carry over. So watch the knees, Just develop that mind muscle connection to keep them out over time. This is hard. This is way easier said than done. And then watch the, you know, because when the knees pull in and then the hips kind of shoot back a little bit, you're still getting a little bit of that scoop, and then the back angle becomes too horizontal, and then so it's forward, and then you have to like pull it back, and you have to shift. So you're kind of shifting the whole system until you get high enough where you can just lift your chest and basically use your low back to finish the rep. So I would say, to simplify what you need to do, focus on keeping the knees out and don't focus on hip drive so much. Now, normally people don't do enough hip drive. And so I tell them, you know, do too much, exaggerate the hip drive, like hammer the hip drive, like drive your butt up so hard I yell at you and tell you that that's too much hip drive. But occasionally, and I have another online guy I'm working with who has the same deal, you're too good at the hip drive. You focus too much on the hip drive at the expense of giving up the back angle. So it goes like this, right? So what we want is a very subtle, like just a little 2-degree change in back angle right out of the bottom, and then that angle locks back in. I don't want it to change so much. So let me see if we can look at the difference between your back angle on the way down. Yeah, so if we're here, right, and this line unfortunately will disappear, but if the back angle for you looks like this, right, and then we hit play, look at that on the way up, right? Now we're here, okay? You see the difference? The other one was like this. So that back angle that you have right before you hit the bottom is the same back angle I want you to have on the way up. And what's happening is you're driving your butt up well, but at the expense of dropping your chest. And part of that has to do with the knees caving in, right? So we're getting this big, and then the bar rolls up, and then you have to shift around to find the balance point. So what I want you to think, don't worry about hip drive anymore for the next couple weeks, because it's gonna happen anyway. It's in you, you know how to do it. I don't have to hammer you about driving your hips up. I want you to think more about keeping your chest up. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean lift it, right? So you're kind of lifting it a little too early. That's part of, it's like your only way you're gonna get up when you have leaned over so much is a lot of hip extension. So instead, I want you, so don't lift your chest, but I want you to keep it up. In other words, when you drive your hips up, do not let your chest drop. Don't do that, right? It's like my chest and shoulders are staying here. I'm gonna drive my hips a little bit, but my chest and shoulders are staying here, right? And so you can think about, like, you can just take all your focus off the hip drive. I'm not worried about it. It'll still happen. And just focus on, you know, keeping your chest up, maintaining that back angle. Sometimes if it gets real bad, I'll tell people to imagine pushing their traps back into the bar on the way up. So when you get to the bottom, instead of thinking about driving your butt up, you think about driving your shoulders straight up into the bar. Almost like you're trying not to do hip drive. And that may be a good way to think about this for you, is like, you're doing too much. So what would you have to do 0 hip drive and just keep that back angle that you set so perfectly on the way down, to not let that change at all out of the bottom? So try that. Think about, let me see if I can do some reps where my back angle is perfect the entire way. Once I lean over and set it, it doesn't change at all, and screw hip drive, who cares about that? And I bet you what we'll see if you overcorrect in that way is that your knees don't shoot back as much. You can keep them out a little harder, and we don't see this dramatic change in back angle that's leading to all these other problems. Like, the reason that you're getting out of your hips too soon on the way up is because of the excessive change in back angle. The only option you have at that point is to get out of your hips and lift your chest. So try and do maybe you could think about it as try to high bar your low bar, right? So in a high bar squat, we don't see quite as much, you don't lean over as much, and you don't get as much hip drive because the bar is higher up on the neck. So you're gonna low bar, but I want you to think about doing it like a high bar. Just quad it up. Forget about your hips for a little bit. Now, this is not advice I would give to everybody. This is specifically for you because we're trying to overcorrect. So try that. And again, work on it. Work on pause squats, light pause squats as your warm-ups, and see if we can fix that, right? Chin down, chest up, perfect back angle all the way down, all the way up. Don't worry about hip drive. And we'll see how it goes. Post another video. I like looking at that flag every time. And let's get a tour of the new garage thing that you built, which is insane. Anyway, good to see you again, and hopefully that helps. We'll keep going. All right, guys. I think we have one more. Oh, we got a double. Oh, cool. We got a double. That's all right. Guy posted 2 videos. Perfect. Here is the second video. If you need more material, all right. Otherwise, we can skip it. Currently on an heavy, light, medium with an overhead press as my light day. Top set of 5 with 4 back off sets at 90%. I have been stuck at a top set of 160 by 4 for 3 weeks now. Should I change the programming, or is that just a function of pressing only 1 time a week? Heavy and medium days are bench. Videos of back off set at 145. Okay, I don't think we've looked at a press in a long time. Good. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay. Can I pause this? Where's my pause? There it is. So I want to see. I'm looking at. Someone gave me shit for like trying to look through the computer screen and like see different angles. All right. Let's take a look here. Yeah, I mean, that's a... okay, good. We got a little thing to talk about. So you're doing it on some and not the others, but I think... So the first thing is I would make sure that your grip is narrow, because a lot, and it might be, that's what I was kind of looking for, but for most people that we deal with, you want the webbing between your thumb and your index finger right on the edge of the knurling. So where the knurling meets the smooth part of the bar, I mean, most people line that webbing up right there. Now, if you're a bigger guy, which you might be, I usually will I'll leave 1 finger width of knurl between the webbing and, so like maybe like an inch. But very few people need more than an inch and a half. The goal is when you're holding that bar, right, you have vertical forearms, and you don't want to be out here like this, because we want your tricep to kind of sit on your ribs, because then you get a little shelf. So you don't want to be out here like this. Okay. So first thing for you, because I can't really do it, is to verify that your grip might be a little narrow. In other words, you're going to have more, you're going to be able to tuck in more and rest the bar with your tricep against your ribs, and in between reps, give your arms a break if you tuck your grip in a little bit closer. Overall, you've got the movement down, right? You're pressing it, getting under it. You want to think about, I mean, yeah, we need a little bit of a shrug at the top. So from here, right, you lock it out, and then there's the shrug. So you're here, if you watch my shoulders, and then the finish is the shrugs, because that's really what's supporting the bar at the top. So once you get to the top, don't forget to shrug the traps up, which you're just kind of locking out the elbows and coming down. But there's another that you can push that bar up higher, and you should, because we're working more muscle mass that way. Again, nitpicky, but that's why we're here. Now, here's the big thing that we're going to talk about. And so I want you to watch your elbows and your hips. So yeah, that was a good example right there. Let me see if I can go back. So the movement comes, the reason that bar bounces is because it is a reaction to you throwing your hips and thighs forward, aggressively popping the hips and thighs towards the wall, right? It's the stretch reflex. So in the squat, the stretch reflex is vertical, right? Hips, your butt goes up and down. In the press, the stretch reflex is horizontal, right? Because you're shoving your hips forward and then they go to the end of the stretch and then they rebound back. And that rebound is really the important part, because the more dynamically and aggressively you can push your hips and thighs forward and then have them snap back and bounce back, that then transfers to the upper body and makes the bar dip and then pop, right? But it's very important that you understand that dip with the elbow travel down and the rebound back up has nothing to do with you doing this, okay? This does not make the bar bounce. The hips make the bar bounce, okay? And the arms just transfer that bounce to the bar. So the arms don't do anything in the press until it's bounced. They just hold the bar here. They rest against your sides and you just sit here. There's no active motion like this. You don't use your arms to help you, right? You wait. You let your arms rest here, and then as you pop your hips, the natural reaction is that the elbow comes down and then springs up, and then the arms move. Then the arms start to work, right? Now you're pressing. But this, if you just, because you're actually doing some hip pop, right? But you could do more. There are some clients that I have who don't do any. Their hips don't move at all, and they think they're bouncing the bar because they're just moving their elbows up and down. That's a very weak stretch reflex. It's a very weak, you're not going to get much help because you're going to get way more if you use the hips. Now remember that the bounce, you are reaching forward from your hips and your thighs, not your low back. So let's see if I can draw some lines here for you. So when you reach forward, do not reach forward from here, okay? This segment right here, your hips and your thighs. You think about pushing your thighs to the wall. Don't reach forward, don't push your belly or your low back, because you'll overextend your low back and you'll feel it. You'll feel a sharp pain in your spine, right? When those facet joints like smashed together. It's not comfortable. This segment right here is rigid. You're just squeezing your abs and you contract your abs, and that helps to keep your low back supported and locked, right? So you don't want to reach forward from here. You reach forward from down here, this segment, right? So just think about keeping your abs real tight and pushing your thighs to the wall. Meanwhile, the arms are resting against you. You're not actively trying to hold the bar up away from you, because that's just gonna waste your energy. You just let it kind of sit here, and you let the natural reaction of your hips aggressively popping forward and bouncing back translate to that bounce. And then once you feel the bar go weightless, you drive under it. Okay, so let's see how your hips move here. Yeah, so if you watch your hips, you kind of push them out and leave them there, right? So if you watch your butt, your hips go forward and they stop. And then you press, right? And what I'd like to see is your butt go forward and back, not here and then press, because it's a rebound, right? And the purpose of that bounce is, one, when you push your hips forward, it gets your head out of the way, so you clear a path. Two, when your hips pop forward and then start to rebound, and right, you get that natural bounce, right? So you get that stretch reflex. And three, then this is the part that's missing here, as your hips go out and then naturally return to neutral, it pulls your torso back under the bar. So your torso goes back as the hips go forward, and then it reverses. The hips come back and the torso goes forward. And so if you get the timing right, as your torso comes forward right at the moment that the bar just passed your head, and then boom, you are underneath it like as soon as possible. as opposed to being back here and pushing with all this leverage, and then eventually you get to here and then you get underneath it. You want to be under that bar as quickly as possible, because as soon as that bar is over your shoulder joint, it's going to get easier, right? So the timing of the hips going forward and back coincides with clearing a path and then having yourself slammed back under it so that most of the rep is right over the shoulder joint. In your case, and a lot of guys do this, the hips go out and they stop, and then they press and they press, and then as the bar is like halfway up, then they remember that they need to get under it because it's going to get easier. You want that whole thing to be fluid. So more dynamic out, and then let them rebound. Don't push the hips forward and let it sit there. They go out and back, right? You know those like blow up inflatable clown things that you punch and the guy just goes like this? That's you. Out and back, out and back, out. It should be dynamic. And when you get all those pieces together and it becomes fluid, that bar will jump higher and you'll be under it sooner. You'll have it over the balance point, right? Because the press is the only lift that we don't start over the balance point. Squat starts over the middle of the foot, bench press starts over the shoulder joint, deadlift starts over the middle of the foot. This is the balance point in the press, and we start here. So there's already a gap. So the hard part of the press is you got to get it here first, right? Because this is just how we have to hold it, because this is where your arms are. We can't really like hold it. I mean, you could do a behind the neck press, but so we have to start here and then we have to clear this distance. And that's what this whole thing is about. This whole hip thing is about. This is the hard part of the press, because you're not over the shoulder joint yet. You have to clear this before you get here. So when you nail that timing and you get a good stretch reflex and the bar goes kind of weightless, and then you sneak under it right away, then the whole rep is going to be easier. You're going to feel the efficiency because you got over your shoulder joint sooner. I want that bar over your shoulder joint as low into the rep as possible. Don't wait. If you push your hips out here and then push all the way here, this is all harder than it has to be. Because if you had just gotten under it here, then you would be over the shoulder joint and you'd be over the balance point. It's going to move more efficiently. Okay. So get your body tighter, pop the hips harder, and allow them to rebound. Do that exercise where you have your hands on your hips without the bar. And don't just feel pushing out, feel the recoil back to neutral. Feel the rebound back to the neutral position, because that's what you want. And then get those hands in a little closer, let the triceps sit against your ribs and just leave it here. Just let it rest. Don't hold it away from you. This is where you want to be, so that when you put those two pieces together and you pop the hips and allow the, right, and the arms aren't trying to help, they're just sitting here, you're going to get you're going to get more of a transfer of that stretch reflex to the bar, and then the arms can take over. Meanwhile, you're sneaking right underneath it because you not only pushed your hips out, you pulled them back. Okay? A lot to take in there. That's the idea. Overall, very good press. The hard part is people getting the rhythm down in the beginning. You've got the rhythm down. Now you need to take these pieces and exaggerate them and make it more efficient by doing the things that need to be done harder. Like, don't just half-ass hip drive on a squat. Hip drive, right? The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. So same thing on the press. Thanks for posting. Happy to do 2 this week. Work on that stuff. I think that kind of does it. I think we got through everybody. Exactly 1 hour. Thank you guys for posting. We'll do it again next week. I appreciate it, and I hope this was useful. And I'll see you guys online. Thanks for watching.